Channel 7.
I'll do my every other.
As the meeting is about to begin, I'm going to announce something to everybody. And speaking with the Attorney General's office, we have within our right to expel anyone from the room that disrupts the meeting and will cause any disruption. Understanding that, we understand that there is going to be a motion here and that people want to speak. If people speak, that's one thing. But anybody that's going to do something that will disrupt the meeting, block people's view, cause disruption, that stops the motion of the meeting, becomes vulgar, violent, says anything that's disturbing to their neighbors, or anyone working here or any of the public, it is our right to expel you from this meeting area. Is there any question regarding that? We all understand that? We'll let the meeting proceed. Thank you for coming.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Oakwood Hills Village Board meeting Thursday, September 4th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. At McHenry County College, 8900 US Route 14, Crystal Lake, Illinois.
Trustee Smith?
Here.
Trustee Ryder?
Here.
Trustee Gore? Here. Trustee Salvo is absent. Trustee Lee? Here. President Funk? Here. We have a quorum.
Could everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Standing for a moment of function. Minutes of the regular board meeting due July 10th, 2014. Any motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Gore?
Yes.
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Smith? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is to consider the bill list dated July 1st, 2014 through July 31st, 2014, in the amount of $25,782.95. Can I have a motion?
What's that for? So moved. Second.
wanted you to look at item under Public Works, a road right-of-way tree trimming for Mendon Township for 3310. That was on request by Prairie Grove School, that the trees were being the bus that's in Adams. Also, the engineering fees from HR Green for $865.45. They are going to be giving us a credit towards the work that they'll be doing on the roads. Are there any other questions? Roll call.
Trustee Moore? Yes. Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Lee? Yes.
Thank you. Next, to consider the bill list dated August 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2014, in the amount of $82,599.83.
So moved.
I'm sorry, I'd like to amend that, please. I'd like to consider the bill list dated August 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2014, in the amount of $82,499.83.
So moved.
Thank you. I did want to bring up why it seems higher. $33,000 is reimbursable by a grant, which was for the infiltration project. Also, there was $2,790 to Hastings for 20 Leeway. I spoke to ComEd today, McHenry called today, and they are going to be reimbursing us the amount. We damaged the road, and we didn't know about it till after. Are there any other questions? Roll call.
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Lee? Yes. Trustee Moore? Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I move to amend agenda number 8 to after item number 9.
Can you please state what you please?
8 is the public forum agenda items only. To after number 9, motions resolution.
That's incorrect.
To the forum number 9.
The president's report is number 8.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you amend it?
I amend the motion to move agenda item 8, President's Report, to after number 9, motions, resolutions, and action items.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Next on the agenda is the pub. I'm sorry. Almost.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Moore? Trustee Lee?
Item number 7, the public forum for agenda items only. As we go through the motions, resolutions, and action items, we will list each one of those, and if you have signed up to speak for or against one of those motions, you will be asked to come forward and speak on those motions. Trustee,
Motion to pass ordinance 140901 on lake watering.
may I have a second? Is there anybody that wishes to speak on that agenda item? Please sign form.
Yes.
Okay, and if you would please come forward and state your name.
I can't come forward.
Okay.
Physically unable right now.
Okay. I need you to state.
Sure. Is this the first time you've had to speak?
No.
My name is Denise Hanapel. I live at 5613 Greenview Road in Oakwood, Ellis. I would like to enter a motion of no confidence. I don't believe that our board has the community's best interests at heart. And I estimate your comment is out of order. You can speak only on the agenda item. That is ordinance, the agenda item. Motion to pass ordinance 14-09-01 lake watering. I don't feel that our board is competent to make any decisions.
Is Regina Narusas here?
Yes. I'd like to make a comment now and also at the non-agenda items. My name is Regina Narusas. I'm an attorney. My law firm represented this village from the very beginning for 40 years thereafter. So at this point, so you know I'm a village person, it appears that some of you don't seem to know that. But what I ask of you right now is for a copy of the board adopted, established, and duly recorded written rules for public comment in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. May I have a copy right now so that we here may know what we're going to be addressing and in what manner? Do you have such a copy?
I'm sorry, we are on the topic of what is on motions and resolutions. The motion on the table right now is to pass ordinance 14-0901 for lake watering.
So you're changing the agenda. We can't hear you back there. So you need to move your mics so we can hear what you're saying.
Yes.
I will repeat my question when you tell me it's timely.
Regina, would you like to do it during the public forum part when it's not during the resolutions and motions?
I want to address the agenda item on public forum. Do you have written, recorded rules required by the Open Meetings Act? Have you adopted them? If you haven't, then be advised you're in violation of the Open Meetings Act. I'm sorry.
I need you to ask to be seated. Right now you are out of order because our motion is for the lake item.
Then why did you call me? I don't understand it.
Okay.
Because you have to speak on an agenda item, but that is not an agenda.
This is an agenda item, open forum.
Carrie,
Number
can you
7,
explain-
public forum.
Explain what the lake watering ordinance is, please.
The Lake Park and Fen Committee was made aware by several residents in the village that were upset that some of the homeowners around the lake during the drought were pumping water out of their lake to water their yards. So we took a look at the impact that the drawdowns were having on a drought-stressed lake last year, and felt that we could be responsive to those people who were very upset about that. And so we decided to put together an ordinance so that during drought periods, people were not drawing down the lake and making impacts to the water quality.
No.
Please let her finish speaking. Do any of the trustees have a question on the water?
We do significant monitoring of the lake every year. We have volunteer lake monitors who go out and monitor the groundwater levels in the wells that we have. And they do, through the State of Illinois Environmental Protection Agency Volunteer Lake Monitoring Program, they have monitored the water quality of the lake for many years. So we rely on that data from our village volunteer monitors who have been trained under that program to monitor the water quality of the lake.
Good work. Gotta give them credit for
Does
the good
anybody
stuff.
have any questions on what? There's a question.
Can I ask a question on that issue? I am one of those that does the volunteer lake monitoring and have been a long time village resident. What I would like to know is how that the village is going to inform the people that live around the lake who were or are or have not drawn water from the lake. How are we going to know that this ordinance is now in pass? We need to be aware of that. How are you going to make the people in the village and live around the lake aware of that, so they will not be in violation?
Right. It will be posted once it is passed. It will be posted in the minutes, and we can post it on the website as a new ordinance so that they will know. And if you would like a letter,
People around the lake know.
yeah, a letter can, if you would like to request a letter, can be sent to those people who live around the lake, including those residents in Silver Lake, although we cannot enforce those people in Silver Lake, but we can go ahead and let them know that taking water out of the lake to basically water their lawns and stuff is not going to
I think that would be good and respectful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Can I ask something on that, please? I just wanted to know what if you didn't have computer access? There's a lot of elderly people that don't have computer access.
They can come into the village and they can ask for anything that we have. Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Moore?
Thank you. Motion to consider a CMAP letter request for review of regional air quality implications of the PM 2.5 particulate matter for the region from the proposed power plant. Can we have a second, please?
Second.
So one of the things that the zoning board does is they look at the land that the proposed PowerPoint plant is going to be put on, and that's how they make their determination on all of the effects that it will have within that specified area. What they are not able to do is to take a look at regional impacts. Therefore, I propose that we request this review from the regional agency that oversees air quality in our region. Does the board have any questions? Roll call, please.
Question?
Are these people that are asking questions, have you guys signed for discussing agenda items?
You can't.
Can
May I address you, ma'am? May I address you?
I ask your name, please?
Yes, my name is Joe Ricciardi, and while my name does not exist on the agenda item list, it's because I was not aware of what the agenda item pertained to. But now that I'm aware of it, I'd like to make a comment.
Hold on, please. Go ahead.
I just wonder if it's appropriate to be drafting studies related to air quality in this power plant after you've already signed a hosting agreement with the power plant. I think most of these studies, it would be much more appropriate to perform prior to even considering a plant of this type being constructed in the village. Thank you.
address that very
We're
quickly.
not going to answer the questions. We're going to let
I think there's been a lot of misconception of what the hosting agreement is. Hosting agreement is nothing more than a framework for procedure. It has nothing to do with approval. It is not an acceptance. As a matter of fact, there are numerous provisions in there that require the petitioner, in this case, to go through federal, state, local reviews. This is one of the local reviews that trustee has suggested. It has nothing to do with timing as far as the hosting agreement, because the hosting agreement does not grant any approval. All it does is say, these are the things you have to do to proceed. The final decision is based upon the evidence submitted to the hearing body, which is the zoning board.
It's not on the agenda.
Reviewed, he raised the issue on the hosting agreement.
No,
sorry.
we raised the issue.
And I think there is a misunderstanding of what a hosting agreement is. And so therefore, what the motion is for the board to request what they would request at some point in the whole procedure anyhow.
Was any due diligence done prior to signing the host agreement?
This is the due diligence process now that we're in.
After signing.
Okay, Paul, go ahead, Ms. Sewell.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Question on the floor.
Sure, you have the podium.
Question. Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Question. Trustee Smith? Question on the
Yes,
floor?
here's us.
Question.
Okay, number 3.
Excuse me, I'm number 1, and I signed up to speak at this hearing, and I did not get to speak on the motion that you just discussed. Denise Canalo, 5613 Greenview Road, is the first person that signed up there. Go ahead, deny me my right to speak.
The motion is already passed.
Well, you obviously.
What would you've already signed in to speak once, you've already spoken once on the agenda number 1.
That was a different agenda number. I have this motion now that I would like to speak on. You said when you got to the motion that you would like to speak on, to go ahead and speak and raise your hand, and that's what I've done. I have had more wisdom teeth removed today and in an extreme amount of pain, and you're causing me to speak more than necessary. I would like to make a motion, again, of no contest, that our board is not qualified to make these decisions in the best interest of our residents.
You know what, you've already made that statement. Once that statement has been made, it cannot be made again. It is duly noted.
That is a motion that is regarding motion to consider the CMAP letter of request for review. The prior statement was made for the
You can't make a motion. You can't make a motion. You're not a board member.
It's already requested.
I also do not feel that our board is acting in the best interest of our residents.
And you have already made that statement, ma'am. But once you make that statement, regardless if it's already stated and it's already duly noted, you don't need to get up for each motion to make that same statement. And you can't make a motion because you're a board member. You can only make a statement. Moving on to number 3, please.
Yes, she can.
Motion to approve tree removal by JAD Tree Care not to exceed $600.
Do I have a second? Does anybody want to speak on the motion to approve tree removal, either for or against it, for $600? Okay, board discussion. This tree removal was part of the grant that was received from the state that the board got to install 2 infiltration basins at the end of 2 roads that were draining pollutants directly into the lake. So we needed to remove 2 trees. Any board members have any questions?
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Motion carried.
A motion to consider the Eagle Scout project by Peter Stewart, Troop 580. Do I have a second? Is there anybody who would like to speak from the audience on the motion to consider the Eagle Scout project by Peter Stewart? Eagle Scout Peter Stewart proposed his project and had it approved by his troop leaders. He proposes to remove the falling down split rail fence that goes around the park, to fill in the holes, and to remove the old horseshoe pits and regrade and reseed the area. Any questions from board members?
Are you guys having a hard time following where they're at?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Dorr? Motion carried.
Motion to approve the annual fish stocking by Richmond Fisheries not to exceed $3,000. Is there anybody from the audience? Oh, second, please.
Second.
Is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak on the fish restocking?
Please, if I could ask just a clarifying question. I think there's some people having some confusion, including myself, over how we're proceeding through the agenda. Would you mind taking a quick second and explaining, like, will we have the opportunity to talk about item 6 on the agenda? I noticed you're down on, is it 9? And I know the lady up here was also trying to ask questions about item 7 on the agenda. Are those, is there going to be an opportunity to ask questions?
Are you talking about the president's report?
The bill list?
You don't.
Do we not get to ask questions? Is that not part of the procedure to ask
That
questions
is
on?
not part of the procedure. You are allowed to ask questions on motions, resolutions, and the action items.
Okay, thank you for the
You're
clarification.
very welcome.
So the annual fish stocking, we base all of those, the Lake Park and Fen Committee, every 5 years invites the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Fisheries Group to come in and do a survey of the lake. And they come in and they survey all of the fish. And they give us a report that tells us what we need to put in to bring the lake into balance. The village for several years did not do any fish stocking, and the fish population had become severely depleted. So in the last few years, we have been slowly trying to make up the difference. We have a small budget for that, so we can't just do it all at once. So over the years, we're gradually bringing the fish population back into balance to have a healthy, stable lake. And we have many fishermen who are involved with that process and who help choose the species.
Any questions?
Trustee Dorr? Yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion to approve the final payment to Pipeline Solutions for last year's project not to exceed $500.
Is there anybody on the floor that would like to address? I'm sorry, second. request the motion to approve the final payment of Pipeline Solutions for last year's project.
I just have a question. Are we only allowed to ask questions before she gives a description, or are we allowed to ask? Because I really don't know what it is until she gives the description of the.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, the Pipeline Solutions was contracted last year because the outfall pipe to the dam, it was the original pipe that had been put in over 50 years ago. And during the drought last year, we had a company come in with a little camera and go through the pipe to check, because we were having a lot of issues with it, and we had to do some reconcreting, and when the guy was there doing the reconcreting of the outfall, he noticed that in the pipe there were big areas where the pipe had rusted away, and the water was starting to erode underneath the pipe. And as you all know, the pipe goes under the road, which is the dam. So we can't have the dam, that earthen dam, becoming eroded. So they presented us with a series of solutions, all which were very expensive, except for relining the pipe. So they have a new material now which they put in, which relines the existing pipe, and it makes the pipe a little bit smaller, about 1/4 of an inch smaller, but because the inside of the pipe is very smooth, unlike the corrugated existing pipe, the water can move through quicker. So we weren't losing any of the amount of water that was going through by relining the pipe. And they said it should last about 50 years. So this is the final payment. They were responsible for going in and repairing any damage to the lawns and reseeding the areas, so this is their final payment.
I would like to add that this is the pipe that runs under North Shore, which is over by the North Beach. Fishing area. Now, did anybody have a question on that particular motion? I see. You can come forward. Can you please state your name and address?
Yes, my name is John Toohey, and I live at 217 Private Lane. My mother lives at 219 Private Lane, which is the property that the repair was done. And I will say that we were never notified of any of the construction, and the repair was done very poorly. We replaced all the landscape, and at this time, the pipe does not flow at the level that it used to flow. So I think there should be an inspection on the intake of that pipe.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody else? Board have any questions? Roll call.
Trustee Gore? Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Trustee Ryder?
Thank you. At this point in time, I believe we can table item 1. I believe it was addressed in the village, NICOR is reimbursing the village.
That's what they're telling me.
At this point in time, I table item 1. Second item I have for this evening is a motion to approve the variance on the metal roof and siding for Chalet Hills Golf Court Cart Storage Building and Storage Barn with the committee penalties and requirements in place.
Do I have a second?
Second. The building department met last night with the representation of the golf course. There were Richard Easton was there. Is he here tonight? Mr. Easton? As we went through the request, the roof had been So the committee felt that the penalty that's stated in our ordinance for doing a roof without a permit would be suffice. The variance was heard due to the fact that it's the only barn in the village. A metal roof seemed to be the appropriate. The siding, the metal siding that's being requested to put on the golf cart storage seemed to be appropriate. Some of the items that the committee requested, along with the Cary Fire Protection District, were 2 man doors to be installed on the exterior walls, illuminated exit and emergency lightings to be installed, outside lightings to be installed at the man doors, install fire extinguisher, 10-pound AB to be approved by the fire department, screening at the top of the metal walls for ventilation, submittal of plans for permanent approval indicated in requirements is described, Cary Fire District to review and approve final plans for permit, and the color of the metal was tan to match the clubhouse, was also approved by the committee. Ms. Reeson, you agree with that?
Yes.
No further comment.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on that motion? Yes?
I wanted to speak on the prior 2 motions as well. I'd like to state that I feel our board members are unable to act in our residents' best interest. Thank you.
I have a question. The golf cart building, is that where everybody just parks their cart, or do you have a separate storage area for carts that are not being used at the time?
That's what me?
Yeah.
I'm not aware. They have outside storage as well as the inside storage. This is regarding the inside storage.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else on the board for question?
Another hand. I have a question.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Okay, sir.
I have a question on the variance that you're allowing for the roof variance. Is that variance going to pertain to any pending zoning variances that are on the table right now? Is there a height variance on this or anything?
No.
No. It's just metal. We don't have metal in our code. So we're not changing the height of the building? No. They re-roofed the barn.
Can I have a break, please?
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Ryder?
Yes.
Trustee Moore? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. I would like to talk about the video gaming that is taking place at Chalet Hills. We were unaware that they had obtained a video gaming license from the state of Illinois. I drafted a letter asking them to provide us with said license. It is listed on the Illinois Gaming website that they have applied and have received it, but they need to bring that before the board. And just to clarify something, they did not come to the board and ask permission. However, we do not have any ordinances against it. The next item is on the Chalet street signs. We had approved to replace the street name signs in Chalet. Upon speaking with Algonquin Township, the gentleman told me that those are specialty poles and that the particular bracket that is going to be needed, although we did include that in the price, might be more than we had originally anticipated. So he is looking into a change of cost on that. So we'll bring that up at the next meeting when I have that information. The village garage was removed and excavated. And along with that, they had found that we thought that it was on a slab and they had done the inspection, and it turned out to be a very thick foundation that was on there, and it was about 4 feet deep and went all the way around. So there were additional costs of $500 to remove that.
but it is still within the $5,000 that we allowed for the removal of that garage. Also, I received a letter a couple months ago from the state of Illinois stating that we had not been slated to receive our road salt that we had applied for through the state for this year. Upon speaking with the state, they said we could reapply, but there was no guarantee of delivery, and they could no longer guarantee the price, which we used to pay about $60 a ton. So, because there was no guarantee we would still receive it for our location, I was able to call several places, and I finally was able to secure salt from Farm Supply Company, and unfortunately, the cheapest price that I could find anywhere that was willing to even give salt was $100 a ton. So that is considerably higher than what we have normally had to pay. But the good thing is that they've agreed to do it, and delivery will be in full in September, and we were able to order our 400 tons, which we had put in our budget. So I hope everybody prays for winter that is a lot better than last year. Yes, sir?
Why was the salt not taken in when you first had a chance at $60 a ton? Who made the mistake that was?
There was no mistake. Early in the spring, we fill out an application through the state of Illinois along with other municipalities and the townships. And through that state, the salt providers award those people monies to go to to the states, because this is done throughout the United States, and then they award those contracts. Well, there is such a shortage because of last year. I guess they were taking it state by state. It was the Midwest that was hit the hardest. So there were other municipalities and some townships within this area that also were notified by the state that we were not slated for delivery to our location. So there was no error. There just isn't enough salt.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
Have any alternative methods been looked into? Like, if you Google it, there are alternatives like using carrot juice in conjunction with salt that can be effective at low temperatures. Have we looked at any other materials besides expensive salt?
Well, you still have to have your salt. When you add the beet juice to it, that is an additional item at an additional cost. There are some townships that do that.
Right, but have you looked into it?
Yes, I've looked into it. It's expensive. And they add it after. And the thing is, too, is that our townships have larger trucks. They actually have an item on their truck that sprays that at the same time that they're salting, which we are not able to do. Any other questions?
Can they spread sand on the flat street?
We're not going to be doing the flat streets. We have to conserve every single bit of salt that we have. We have approximately 80 tons of salt sand mix that we wound up mixing last year to do the hills. But because we store our salt at Algonquin Township, they only have so much room in their building because they have to have salt too. Last year, we used so much salt, and I think we've all learned a lesson that we use too much salt on our roads. The township agreed to, is that once their facility was opened up enough, they were able to bring in sand and mix their salt along with ours with remaining sand to put on the roads. But because it's packed so full earlier in the season, if you don't use it, there's no room to pack it, to mix it with sand. And you can't have sand just outside by itself because it turns like cement. So it's almost impossible to mix.
Excuse me, I still have trouble hearing, but did you say we're not going to salt the flat streets?
We will only salt if absolutely necessary. This is what we did last year because we only have 400 tons and they are predicting, unfortunately, a bad winter. We have to use that salt very sparingly, and because our village, the majority of our village is hills, we have to make sure that those hills are taken care of and that the intersections are taken care of first.
But wouldn't that put our school buses and our children standing outside on the driveway with people going down the roads that aren't salt please look at this again, find money somewhere. You cannot have children standing in driveways waiting for a school bus on stormy days without protecting them. These are our most important assets that we have.
That's why.
Excuse me. This is what we depend on you to do. Our most important assets, protect them and serve the village. This is what you need to do. You need to get the money from somewhere, somehow, but get this all done in the streets in all areas of Oakwood to protect our children on the corners that are waiting for the school buses. I would hate to see in the newspaper or scare a famous kid getting hurt because we did not have enough money to put salt on our streets.
Sir, last year when we had that bad winter, we didn't do a lot of the flats.
Last year you got lucky.
We also worked with the plows to also raise their blades a little bit more so that it wasn't taken all the way down to the asphalt to make it slippery. There are several things that they do to ensure that. And the problem is it's not only a money problem, it's the fact that there just isn't salt available. We are extremely lucky that we were able to find salt at all because there are many municipalities and townships that are getting nothing. There just isn't any out there. Did you have a question, ma'am?
Actually, I just moved into Oakwood Hills. I have not been in there during winter. However, my children have been delayed quite a bit from the school bus. Over by Broken Door and that area there, now that township does kind of roads. There is something. I'm not sure what it is. However, they do spray roads, and I go through there a lot. Just delayed over there. This spray helps dramatically the ice. Is that something that you can look into?
That's an additional cost through Nunda Township, and it's a beet juice mix that they spray on the roads.
Is that something that if the residents are willing to put more money into, you guys can't find the budget? The residents should be able to themselves.
Hold on, I can't hear what's going on.
Here it comes. Here comes the big guy.
You started. The minute I walked in. I just want you to tell the officer to leave me alone. I had to get out of my thing. Just back to the meeting. Get back to the meeting. We don't have much time. I didn't say anything. Anybody else hear that?
No, he did nothing. No, he did nothing. Who stood there? Can we hear from Madam Chairman on this issue? 10 feet away, nothing happened.
Enough so we can get on with the meeting, please.
Yes. Stop harassing.
Every time
Madam
you get up
Chairman.
and something was going on, I can say to you repeatedly, you're told not to do that. The other thing is, if you guys are going to talk about what we're talking about, if you're going to continue to talk about this, others can't hear, we're having a hard time.
We can't even hear the board to start with. It's not us. It's not us.
The next statute person wants to talk out of turn, has to either be removed or relocated. Do we understand what's going on?
This is ridiculous.
Do we understand?
Madam,
Let him stay.
Somebody call 911. This is no, seriously. You don't agree, it's 2 minutes. That is a violation of law.
I would love to know.
It's happened before, it's going to happen again today.
You allowed to stare me down?
We're done with the conversation, sir. We're done with the conversation.
Then take your officer and
Let's just
then he can go stand somewhere else.
He can stand wherever he wants within the facility.
I can look back at you. Look at me. I can look back at you. Is there a law against looking back at you? Yeah, what's she doing? It's just there's no more First Amendment. There's no more rights. It's a police state.
Let him stay, Melanie.
Excuse me.
I would like to hear
do anything, sir. You've been speaking out of turn. You're trying to. Really?
I don't know what's going on because I can't hear him. He has a right to do that just like everybody else does. He's allowed.
Thank you.
They're in violation.
Is there any way that we can find out what the cost would be to incorporate this into our treatment of our roads?
We have nobody that can do that for us.
But is there a way to find out how we can find a way to incorporate it? Find out the cost would be to help put the devices on the truck. Just get a general idea of what the ultimate cost would be.
I did this before, I did this after last winter and did all sorts of talks with the townships because they're the ones that help us.
But doesn't none of our money in the township?
Only part of us is in London Township, and London Township doesn't help as much as Algonquin Township does. So.
Get the cost and throw the numbers out there to people and see.
There's a lot of, they do add things to our salt, but there are a lot of studies and different things that they use on the roads. But I'd like to move on because we would like to have time for your public forum.
Yeah.
Okay, communications from trustees, departments, and heads.
Just the building department report for August. We issued 12 permits as compared to 7 during August of last year. I was in court in August and some housing issues, and person did not show, so the case was continued until October.
Thank you, Ken. Jim?
Would you speak into the microphone so we can hear you?
Jim?
Madam President, I distributed the financial statements previously to the board. If there are any questions, please give me a call.
Thank you. Chief?
Any questions regarding the August and July activity reports?
John? Nothing? There is no executive session. Any other business? Okay, Carrie.
The board has applied for and received significant grants to do projects this year. And so we're going to be looking for assistance from people who have certain expertise. So for example, anyone who has expertise in construction and general contracting, for example, that kind of thing, to assist us with doing these projects as part of our in-kind match. So I'm going to be writing up this weekend and posting on the webpage a description of the grants and some of the kinds of help that we need for assistance. And I thought I'd mention it today because there's a lot of people here who are obviously very involved with the village, and maybe some of you have that expertise. So I'll just let you know that I'm going to be writing something up about the grants for projects. I'm putting it on the webpage next week.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, next public forum. Melissa, will read the names off of the sign-in sheet. Public forum.
Rosie Riley.
Could you make a comment that maybe she, Regina could go up after you because she really wanted to make some, and she's not on that list. When you're done.
Oh, when I'm
Point of order, you cut me off when I was called. Now, when can I speak? Or is that a way of avoiding the answer to the question,
Mrs. Nerus,
which was
will
obvious here?
and go next, if you would take a seat.
Thank you.
As Tom Hanks said in the movie, A League of Their Own, there's no crying in baseball. Well, there's also no crying in power plant opposition. So I'll try to get through this. I'm Rosie Riley. I've lived in Oakwood Hills for 34 years, and I thought nothing would shock or surprise me, but how this village president and board thinks this power plant is a good idea amazes me. It's been documented that Adventure, Northland Power, and the village of Oakwood Hills have been years in the planning of this power plant. Our group only found out about this situation 2 months ago. Mrs. Funk, you say you are neutral, but nothing you've done so far shows any amount of neutrality or transparency. You continue to separate yourself from the majority of your constituents and disregard our concerns regarding this proposed plant. You have given certain self-serving individuals free rein to encourage deals that are not good for our village, nor the surrounding communities. You do not owe this individual anything. You owe all the residents of our village your very best efforts to serve our village in an ethical manner. In the grand scheme of things, the money tax revenue village would get from Northland and Venture is chump change compared to the huge profits they stand to make from this plant being built in Oakwood Hills. Building it here is the most cost-effective for them, making them very competitive. They like to use that term a lot. Let Northland Power pay more for refurbishing an existing coal plant that may be closing down. We don't need a power plant in close proximity to our homes and our schools. We also don't need to drag this out, but need to come to a favorable conclusion for the residents of Oakwood Hills and surrounding communities. Just the prospect of this plant possibly being built in our community already has a negative impact on our property values, as anyone who's currently trying to sell their home will tell you. We are not a bunch of thugs, bullies, liars, and gossips, as we have been referred to, but are concerned residents of Oakwood Hills who have come together to try and right this wrong, and who are concerned about our health, quality of life, and real estate values for not only ourselves, but the surrounding communities in McHenry County. I urge you, when the time comes for a vote, do not approve this project for Adventure in Northland, but send them packing back to Canada.
Please be seated.
Again, for the record, my name is Regina Nerus. I am an attorney, and I have lived in this village for more than 50 years. I'm not an outsider the way I hear our mayor refer to the people who object to this plant. Now, I would like to get an answer. Do we, Mrs. Mayor or Mr. Mayor, however it's appropriate, do have written, established, and duly recorded rules for public comment? Do you have such rules?
We do, and if you would like a copy of those, Mrs. Nerus, you can obtain those at the Village Hall upon your request.
Are they recorded in some way? Where are they recorded? I've gone through the internet, your site, they're not there. And ma'am, if you had the rules, you would have conducted this meeting in accordance to the rules. You had no rules here. You had written ones. If I may get back, who closed down the village hall? Who did? Who had the authority? Have you folks met? Have you met in secret? What have you done? Created a police state for us? We have to have 4 armed policemen in this hall to what? To protect you against us? What kind of intimidation did you get? Or was it criticism of you that you couldn't stand? Now, we were deprived of our right to have access to village services for almost a month. Where were you? And don't tell me you weren't closed. I have emails that come back to me saying, we're closed for business. Well, we're not. We have needs you have not met. Shame on you. We're ashamed in all of McHenry County. We're a joke because you don't know how to run this village. Time you learn from it.
Now stop shouting out. Mrs. Marousas has the floor. That is your first warning. If you shout it again when someone else is speaking, you will be removed from this meeting.
Oh, am I threatening you because I'm talking loud and you can hear it and we can't hear you? I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm going to speak like a lawyer, which means people are going to hear me. Now, if you were going to kick me out because I speak too loud, then ma'am, you have a problem.
I wasn't speaking to you, Mrs. Marousas. I was speaking to the gentleman over here who shouted out.
Then I apologize. Now, the transparency. You folks discussed this power plant in executive sessions and executive meetings. You violated the Open Meetings Act. And as you probably already know, a complaint has been filed with the Attorney General. You can't play these games with the people. We had no knowledge of what you're doing. Now what you're hearing are emotions and people who are upset with you because you weren't honest with them. And you didn't tell them what you were doing. You didn't have their input. And as far as that contract is concerned, you find me a paragraph that says it's contingent on something. It's not. And the resolution was adopted. And our good mayor was running to Cary and Crystal Lake to get wastewater for this plant. Who does she represent? I'm sorry, ma'am. You violated our trust.
Jesse L. Davis Jr., 5501 Oak Park. I've been here almost 30 years. I just have one question. Who assisted in doing the economic analysis regarding the hosting agreement?
This is for statements only, sir.
I'll make a statement. I'll make a statement then. First of all, this power plant is less than 1,000 meters from protected rare fen. You're pulling down water that may in the future in the event of climate change, who knows what. You have totally violated the trust of everyone in the village. You know what? No one votes against their economic self-interest. Your house will drop in value as well as mine. So obviously something's not, if it smells like a rat, then there is a rat.
No.
You're on the tape. That's the only thing that can be.
And your name, sir, is?
Carl Mayer.
She doesn't have to
6
say.
West Lakeshore. You're on the tape.
That is why I know that we can expect answers to these statements that we're giving.
You are not required to answer the statements that are given. Sir, please let the man at the podium speak. Could you please state your name and your address, sir?
Good evening. I'm Dr. James Bird.
Thank you.
I'm a medical doctor, and I was impressed by the fact that you're very concerned about the quality of our lake. Particulate matter not be put into the water, that we watch the levels of our water, that we not waste water. And I just would like to go into some studies that were done by the EPA and also by the David Suzuki Foundation regarding natural gas power plant. And although they only produce 10% of what a coal plant power plant would produce, that particulate matter that is produced is so small that it's actually more dangerous than that produced by a coal plant. And our lungs and our air conditioners cannot filter that out. That will get into our lake, but more importantly, it will get into our children's lungs. The Advanced Allergy Associates, those 3 doctors who take care of my son who has a bad case of asthma, are very, very concerned about the rise in asthma that will definitely occur in our children in this community and surrounding communities. In addition, the studies show that a 430 megawatt power plant will produce per hour 455,000 pounds of carbon dioxide, 43 pounds of sulfur dioxide, which becomes acid rain, and 731 pounds of nitrogen oxides, which produces low-level ozone, which is called smog. Those produce damage to our farms around the area. They produce damage to our children's lungs, and they add to the threat of asthma. If you take all this into account, this comes to about 20 tons of particulate matter per year that will be dumped into our air and into our water. So I think that maybe our concern for water is very important. And to add this to the water, our fish will no longer be edible. It will be a disaster for this area. Thank you.
Sir, I did want to ask, do you have information on the studies that you can
I have
supply
those
to the
articles
board?
in my car if you'd like them.
That would be great if you could
Thank
send
you.
those to us.
Statements only.
You know what, there's no need to be like that.
Eric Hirsch.
My name is Eric Hirsch. I live at 5402 Greenview Road. I'm going to be about a couple hundred yards away from this monstrosity if it goes in. What I would like to ask, or actually what I'd like to say, is that your obvious overly friendly relationship with Mr. Conrad Anderson, as exhibited by the great big hug you gave him after the first board meeting, and combined with the fact that your husband is on the board of trustees, presents a big conflict of interest. At the very least, he needs to recuse himself from the board, and at best, the 2 of you need to resign. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to address the misconception. With my husband standing right there, Mr. Anderson looked very ill, and I asked him, what? Just be quiet for a second. I asked him if he was okay, and he had told me that he has cancer and he's been going through chemotherapy, and I gave him a side hug. It has nothing to do with anything else. I have great compassion for people, and everybody should be concerned about people. We have not stopped anybody from speaking. We have plenty of time.
Don Halter.
Don Halter, 213 Lakeshore Drive. You've already stated that you will not answer any questions. You know, it would be the appropriate thing to do. I would like to ask a question either way. When did you first meet Conrad Anderson? When? The dates where you first approached about this power plant? Nothing?
No, I'll answer your question. When I came into office, May of 2013, at the end of the month.
At the end of the month?
Yeah.
The exact date?
I don't have those dates with me here, sir.
So you were not approached before the election,
I
before you
answered-
came into
No, I was
office?
not approached before the election.
And you can prove this?
I was not approached before the election.
And you can prove this?
Look at the village board meeting minutes and stuff. There was nothing there, sir.
You said this before.
That is correct.
You said it in public before,
That
as
is
you did it
correct.
from your very constituents. How are we to
Not
believe
hide
anything
this,
that you
sir.
were to say from this point forward? How are we
Is there
supposed to?
anything else?
Yes.
Oh, there's a lot more.
The clock is ticking.
Oh, the clock is ticking. It's ticking for you. I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask you now for once, since you were elected to do the right thing for this community, for this village that you so-called care about, and that is resign, and do it promptly.
Linda Davis.
I guess you're really not going to answer my question either. Mrs. Narusas touched on this. On April 29th, the agenda was posted for the meeting, May 1st. My question is, why were none of the village residents of Oakwood Hills given information so that we could talk before you signed the hosting agreement? I understand what the hosting agreement is, but I've been going door to door. I took 3 streets, I spoke to residents, and most residents are against this power plant. Why were they not given the opportunity to let you know before you voted on this hosting agreement?
Only what you want. I think it's time just to drop this whole thing. It's not going to get any better. Just cancel the agreement now.
Mike Riley.
Come on, Mike.
I'm Mike Riley. I live at 19 Hickory Road. Been there for, well, same amount of time as my wife, Rosie, 34 years, a little over 34 years. I don't feel it necessary to speak about specific concerns regarding the power plant being proposed to us by Inventure and Northland. Those questions, comments, and our factual findings are best saved for the next zoning board meeting. The continuance granted to the petitioners has actually worked in the favor of the CCOPP. That's us, concerned citizens. I think our preparedness at the zoning board meeting next month will demonstrate that fact. My concern is the way this entire process has been carried out from the beginning. Many of the goings-on regarding this project leave me mystified as to why. Why did we have to find out about this project only after the hosting agreement with the petitioner was approved by the board? Why does our village president continue to insist she was not hiding anything when in fact this project was being discussed by the board in executive session since 2013, and possibly some knowledge of a possible negotiation, I understand, as early as 2009. Why, according to reliable sources, did our village president withhold the information regarding what was being planned from at least the majority of her village trustees and other village officials? Why, when information was presented to the trustees and the host agreement was discussed and voted on, did the village president find it necessary to misguide at least some trustees concerning the true magnitude of this plant? Why has the village president continually use deceitful tactics to try and prevent, as much as possible, our objections from being heard in public forum. Her actions have included closing the village hall, using the excuse of unsubstantiated threats to village officials, using subterfuge in order to select a venue to hold this meeting with a smaller seating capacity as opposed to other viable locations. I think that's why a lot of people didn't show up tonight. A larger venue, we would have had a full house, I'm sure. People were scared away. And arranging the agenda in such a manner that public forum is placed as the last item on this extensive agenda. Now, I do compliment you for giving us, at this point, ample time to speak. I think most of us weren't expecting that, and that's why, again, a lot of people didn't show up. The room, you understand, is only rented until 9 p.m. Is that still correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. Which people looked at that and said, well, our opportunity to speak has been greatly reduced, so I think people didn't show up. The reason given was for only having a 1.5-hour meeting was budget concerns. To answer this concern, I offered to you, Mrs. Schwunk, by email and through the CCOPP Facebook page to personally pay the additional $150 to extend our meeting time by 2 hours if needed to allow all interested parties the opportunity to be heard. I received no reply on my offer. Another example of our village president's attempts to quiet our voices. As I stated in the beginning, I, and I know many others, are totally mystified as to why our village president goes to such lengths to quiet and discredit the objections of this plan by the residents of Oakwood Hills, whom she has sworn to serve. Thank you for your time.
Matt Dunn?
Hello, I'm Pat Dunn from 4 Dauphine Drive in Oakwood Hills. I also didn't think I was going to be speaking tonight either. So I'm just going to summarize quickly some of the things I think are really important for the board, and happy to have an opportunity to talk to you. These proposals are so massive and complex that our zoning ordinance doesn't even address them. The first thing they're asking for is to amend our zoning ordinance. They need to amend the zoning ordinance so that a PUD can be written, proposed, preliminary, comprehensive land use plan has to be complied with. Variations, many variations need to be requested. There's 9 pages on the petition of things that they're asking for. We have a good zoning ordinance, and we actually have a comprehensive plan. In our zoning ordinance, we have the opportunity to hire consultants to help us review projects. So I'd like to take the opportunity to talk to the board tonight about actually being able to hire experts to review this complex project. We can have them look at the complexities like groundwater and the effect it would have on the groundwater. As far as our comprehensive land use plan, it was not addressed at all. We do have one, and we have a map and a text. The map says that property should be commercial, and the text that was updated in 2009 proposes that property for neighborhood, commercial, light industrial. The host agreement says it complies with the comprehensive plan. It does not. There's many criteria in your zoning ordinances that's put there for your benefit. You have a great zoning ordinance that tells you how to review variations, and the host agreement, the petition says it complies with many of the details like adequate air and supply and doesn't hurt the neighborhood values. And please take an opportunity to open it up or ask your staff or hire staff to help you with this review, because they're kidding you with the information that they have in their petition and with the information that was in the host agreement. I also am a little worried about precedent. If you approve this piece of property,
If other ones come, you're going to have a more difficult time if you already accept everything that this property claims that they have and how helpful they are, how they're a good fit. So this is a big impact, not only on this property, but the surrounding area. This project does not belong here. And if you don't have the capability to look at it, you're used to doing variations and things that involve your lake, and you're very good at what you do. But this is a little bigger than anything we've ever had before, so don't just listen to their 3-hour presentation. Please hire the experts you need to do a good job to be able to evaluate this project. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Brett Rapington, 3115 Carrington Drive. I am not in Oakwood Hills, but I am, for golfers, I'm about a 3-wood wedge away in Royal Oaks. I also had a question, but since we can't ask questions, I'm going to put on my ultra-sensitive wife's pink glasses here, if that's okay. I want to reference a report from Conrad Anderson from Adventure. And I want to read a little part of this, and I'm going to try to state the theme of safe roads for our children. Let me get this a little closer here. He discusses water, these natural gas plants and using water-cooled systems. He references this in his article, and it's Power Engineering. It's an article that he wrote. It says, in addition, local governments, particularly in the northern part of the country, are requiring enough dry cooling capacity installed to avoid plumes and dangerous icing during winter months on nearby heavy traveled roads and airports. My question is simple. We don't have enough ice right now, or we don't have enough salt right now to take care of normal winter conditions. When you bring this power plant in and we have icing conditions throughout the whole winter, what are we going to do at that point? You had asked us to pray that we have a mild winter. I'm praying that you guys do the right thing and keep this thing out of here.
Don Kroll.
My name is Don Kroll. I live at 5604 Oak Park Road over in Oakwood Hills. And recently, I attended the last meeting we had at the Holiday Inn and the one prior to that. And one of the power plant's attorneys that read out a dissertation for an hour on zoning and what medium industrial is I don't know where he got his information, but I recently talked to the, as close as I could find, I found the plant in Joliet, and that was the closest to this description. And I talked to their zoning commissioner over in Joliet, and that property that power plant sits on in Joliet, he told me right out, it's heavy industrial property. This proposed power plant is a deep water mining operation, and in that operation, it's for profit. It doesn't care what happens to the people in Oakwood Hills once this is approved, or the surrounding areas. And I have to say, Ms. Funk, if you hug Mr. Anderson for his cancer survivor, well, I'm a cancer survivor too, and I usually don't bring that up in public, but I don't look forward to your hug because you're endangering our children by even considering this. Anybody who ever hears that word cancer in their life doesn't want to hear it the second time, believe me. And I wouldn't want to see any small children, especially very young children, adults, or anyone else ever hear that word. Thank you very much.
Christensen.
I live at 3103 Killarney. I'm a care resident, just outside. I can throw a football to Oakwood Hills. I believe you were sold, thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. Fellow board members, I believe you were sold a bill of goods by a power company and an incompetent president. I'm going to kind of go through some of the different things that a power company will bring. And I did have one question after that, but the tapping of an already depleted aquifer system, the pollution of gray water, visual and lighting impacts, noise, air quality, and odor impact. You wanted someone to study, so I have to ask, do you guys have any studies other than the power plants? You wanted it, so I don't know if I'm going to ask that question or if you're not going to answer it. Okay, you're not going to answer. That's fine.
What's your answer? It's fine.
It's okay. I'm fine if she doesn't answer that. I don't mind it. Finally, this fun. Now is the time for leaders, and very clearly you're not one. At every turn, you've misled the public. You've called us vicious. You've called us protesters at a public zoning meeting that we were asked to come to. You shut down the government, said there were multiple threats. A FOIA request showed there were none. If you love Oakwood Hills like you claim to, resign and let it heal. Thank you very much.
May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. He was the last one.
No, I didn't get to speak.
Yeah.
I was the first one on the list, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
It's fine, it's fine.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the board tonight for giving us this opportunity to speak. My name is Joe Ricciardi, and I live at 3109 Carrington Drive with my wife and 2 small children. It's no secret that I stand against this power plant. I have signed on with several other residents of Oakwood Hills to file a written objection to this project. That being said, I want to make it abundantly clear that the troubling situation that this board finds themselves in was never about the people, but about the process. I empathize with the members of this board. I don't envy the position you find yourselves in. With the exception of 1, possibly 2 of you, I don't believe that it's ever the intention of this board to mislead or misrepresent this community. But there has been betrayal, and feelings have been hurt, and people are angry. When tensions get this high, toes will get stepped on, and that certainly has happened. This discussion is not about a debate over energy in Northern Illinois. It's not about whether gas is better than coal. It's not even about the benefits, if they outweigh the disamenity that this plant will bring to this community. It's much more important than that. It's about respect, honesty, open communication with your constituents so that you can best represent their interests. There's an enormous difference of opinion between the community and the developer of this project. What we do know is that most of you, our elected trustees, did not have all the facts when you were asked to sign this hosting agreement this past May. What we don't know, and what we can't know, is how you feel about this project now that you have seen some of the facts. Because since the signing of this agreement, you have been bound not to share your opinions for fear of litigation. We get that. There's very strong emotion on this topic, and the stakes are high. This is a critical conversation. It's not simply challenging, frustrating, frightening, and annoying. The results of this will have an impact on the lives of every single person in this community. The truth is, this conversation should have begun a long time ago. Our elected representatives should have had the courage and integrity to start this conversation a long, long time ago. I stand to you tonight to tell this board that it's not too late to take a stand. The facts of this project have been laid bare. It's plainly clear where this community stands on this issue. If there's any doubt, drive up and down any street in this village or in the surrounding community and read the signs. We urge you to stand firmly for this community, to see this process through, to follow the letter of the law, and when the time comes to vote, do not forget who you are representing. Thank you.
Motion is adjourned, meeting is adjourned at exactly 9 o'clock.
Madam President, can you tell me why you lowered the flag in the North Parkway you took out?
Yes, I actually can. A gentleman came. Can I answer the question for you? A gentleman came into the village hall on Tuesday and told us that we were in violation of the law because we do not have electricity going to that flag, and demanded that it be taken down. So we took it down because we do not have electricity to that flag to light it again.
We'll raise it lower.
If I could have a volunteer to raise it up and down.
Okay, like that.